method here. So I'll do Alt Enter, create method random sampling, and it will provide this input stream and the sample size. I think we can remove the sample size because we already have the sample size method here. But anyway, let's for the sake of it, I will just keep it. Okay. So guys, I think that it's better to remove it because we are already actually it will call confusion here. So random online sampling, I will remove this because we already have the sample size initialized when we create this object. Okay. Now we only have got this input stream, which is actually mimicking the network packets which are receiving from the socket or from the input stream. But here we are using the file. Now, guys, the basic the idea that I'm going to use here is that I will use the similar way that how we created the random sampling using swap method, in which we were getting the data and then we were creating some random number to swap it with the original index. In this case also, because we are having this online data and our online data streaming data is keep on increasing our set of data that we have to sample from, that will be keep on changing. Whenever we got this new data, I will try to generate a random index like this and try to swap it with the sample that we already have. So this is the idea that I'm going to use here in this random online sampling. So I will first of all, I will create a list that we have to return. So list of integer, and I will just mark it as a running sample. This is what we have to return, and just mark it as new array list, and this should be of sample size 4. Okay, and now I will read this input stream using object input stream because this object, because we don't know in the network packet what the type of object is set. So that's why I will be keep on using object input stream using the read object method there. But in our case, as we know that we are writing an integer, so that's why we already know it, that for the simplicity of this problem, I'm just using integer to write as an object here. So let's take this, create this object input stream, and I will pass this input stream that has been passed as a parameter here, and Control Alt V. So it's I will call this as OIS, object input stream, and again I will prefer to use final var. Okay, so it should be throwing some exception, and I will add it to the method signature here. Now we are going to read the objects that has been written and keep on adding it to the running sample. So I assume that we have already got at least the sample size of data in the input stream. Otherwise, it has to wait till it gets it. So in this case, I will assume that it's already have that at least the sample size of data, that is size of 4, it has already been read. So we'll write for I is less than sample size, and then I will actually because I know that it's actually integer, so I will mark it as integer as j and OIS dot read object, and I will wrap it as an integer, class not found exception, and also I will cast to this. Okay. So showing me, because it has got a new section here which I haven't declared in a unit test. So I will click on this one related, Alt Enter, and add exception to our unit test as well. Let's go back here. Now we have read this first integer, and I will simply, in the running sample, I will add this, add j. Okay. So let's revise what we have done so far. That we have got this running sample of sample size 4, which we are going to return, and we read this input stream using object input stream, because we don't know what type of object is wrapped in, so that's why we are using the read object. But for this, just the simplicity of this example, as I already know that I'm going to print in integer values here. Similarly, I will cast it back using integer and add it to our running sample. Now the important thing is that now we have to actually create a shuffle here, the similar way that we have done with the swap method before. Let's do that now. So I will just use this, the numbers seen so far as an index. It should be starting with sample size. We have already read the sample size of 4 data from the input stream and added it to our running sample. So we start from this, that we have what we have already seen. And now while true, because this is online, right? Real time data is being received. So that's why I will mark it as a while true. And then inside this, I will write try. And in the try block, I will use this, and I will read this object again. So I will just copy this here from here. So this is what we are mimicking right now, that we are keep on getting in the real time. We are actually getting the new object in the real time, and we keep on reading it with using the read object method. And now it means that once the new object has arrived, that's why we are able to get this data here. So that's why we will increment this number seen so far, right? Okay. And now I need to use an index here, a random index here, which needs to be replaced in the running sample. Okay. So for this, again, I will, instead of this, I will just use thread local random dot current dot next int. Okay, and now here I will pass number seen so far. Now we are creating a bound here, because say sample size was 4 first, and then we have already created it and added it to the running sample. After that, we get some more data from the input stream. That's why we are able to get this in the read object method here. And then we increment this. So now we have got 5. So we have to see an index between 1 to 5 by using this next int method, and this number would be generated. And now we will see that whether this random number generated is within that index of 0 to 4. Only then we will going to replace it. So it's very much similar to that what we have done for the swap. I'll take this variable, Control Alt V, and I will. This is the ID to replace. Okay. I will mark it as final var again. Now what we are going to do is that now we have got a random integer between 0 to 5. And then we will see that if this is less than sample size, only then we are going to replace it, this number, right? The similar way that we have done here. So I will just use if ID to replace is less than sample size, only then we will go into running sample dot set. So we can set the because this is a list, we can use this set method with the given index. So this is ID to replace with the actual, the new sample that we have got from the online data. Okay. So this is what we are doing. We are generating this number only when it is less than sample size. I mean, if the ID comes between 0 to 4, only then we are going to replace it with the new data that is coming from this online streaming. Okay, so after this, I will just mimic it. That takes some time. So I will just use time unit dot say milliseconds, and I will sleep here for some time, say 500L, right? So this is just to mimic that. The online data, it is like received, the network packets that are being received that has got latency of say 500 milliseconds. Okay. So this is what now we have at this point, we have already got a running sample which we can print. So again, I will use this print int list method, int list. There I will pass this running sample. Okay, so this print int list that I have created a util method here, that we are passing this list, and it will do a pretty print on the same line as a comma separated, and followed with a print ln. So this is already created before, and we have used it before. So now for this sleep, it will throw some exception, but before that, let me Let me write. So because it's a true method, right, we should have a break statement. So this break will be happening when we have no data to be read from our input stream. And we know that in our input stream, we are reading from a file which already has got the data till from 1 to 10. So after 10, it should be throwing an exception of end of file exception. That's why we have to catch it, and that's where we have to break from this loop. Final end of file exception. Okay, and I will just mark it as EE maybe, and that at this point we have to break. Okay, now let's add this exception for here, sleep. Alt enter, add cache loss. It throws an interrupted exception, so I will, it's fine. So I will mark it as final again, final. Okay. Now after this all is done, we are out of this while loop. Now we close our object input stream, sorry, and return the running sample. This is the final one. So we keep on printing this running sample while the data is being received one by one, and we do this random generation of the index. And only when this index is less than a sample size, we are changing our running sample with this, swapping it in fact, and then we print this every time we actually read a data. So it will be printing like from 5 to 10, like 6 times at least. After this is all done, we also return the final running.